Before we dive into the aspects involved and the other planets involved, I'd like to take a moment to deep dive into Sirius, Fixed Star Sirius. In almost every story I uncovered in my research regarding Sirius, it's a dog. In Homer's Iliad, Sirius is referred to as Orion's dog rising in autumn. Homer describes the star as follows: "And aging Priam was the first to see him, sparkling on the plain, bright as that star in autumn rising, whose unclouded rays shined out amid a throng of stars at dusk. The one they call Orion's dog, most brilliant, yes, but baleful as a sign. It brings great fever to frail men." Iliad, verse 1 through 5. I'd also like to note here, I don't have it prepared in my notes, but baleful as a sign, it brings great fever to frail men. Some of you might be under the weather right now. Sirius is nicknamed the fever bringer. Just thought I'd add that. In Greek mythology, Sirius is the loyal companion, dog of the hunter Orion. This is because Orion and Sirius appear to form a picture of a dog in the sky as they hunt Lepus, the hare, or the Timusian fox. Similarly, the ancient Romans situated Sirius in the constellation Canis Major, which translates from Latin for greater dog. In fact, the origin of the phrase, the dog days of summer, evoking summer days that are so miserably hot, like today in Philadelphia, I think we hit 95 degrees and the humidity was so thick you could cut it with a knife, where one can do nothing but lie around and rest, can be tied to Fixed Star Sirius. Originally, the phrase had nothing to do with dogs nor the laziness of summer. Instead, and this is a quote from National Geographic, instead, the dog days refer to Sirius, the brightest star in the constellation Canis Major, which means big dog in Latin, and is said to represent one of Orion's hunting dogs. To the Greeks and Romans, the dog days occurred around the time Sirius appears to rise alongside the sun in late July in the northern hemisphere. They believed the heat from the two stars combined is what made these days the hottest of the year, a period that could bring fever or even catastrophe. In 2024, the dog days span from July 3rd to August 11th. While this doesn't correlate everywhere across the globe, it does very much align with the weather I experience from my latitude and longitude here in the greater Philadelphia area. Keep in mind also that even fixed stars shift ever so slightly due to the wobbling of the Earth, at least from our Earth-based perspective, which is what astrology is based on. This means that every 50 years or so, the sky and the location of the fixed stars will shift about 1 degree. Most indigenous American tribes refer to Sirius as the moon dog or coyote, while Far East Asians called it the celestial wolf. Sirius was important in ancient Phoenician and Egyptian cultures as well. The name Sirius is up for debate, believed to come from either Greek or Egyptian origin. In ancient Egyptian culture, Osiris replaced Anubis, yet another dog figure, as the god of the underworld. So it's possible that the name Sirius came from Osiris. It's also thought to come from the Greek word for the brilliant one, or the scorching one, fever bringer. Sirius is believed to have associations with alienism, anarchism, and cultural memory, especially fabricated or false memories and beliefs that are passed down. People who have hard personal aspects with the fixed star Sirius within a 2.5 degree orb, myself included, tend to have some kind of identification with a lone wolf complex, whether it has shaped the personality of someone intimately close to them or been a theme in their own life path. People with hard personal astrological placements aspecting Sirius often feel like they are the black sheep in their family. It's aspecting my midheaven exactly, which falls at exactly 14 degrees Cancer. And I can say this pattern is not only true for my own life, but it's also true for my father's as well. Sirius falls on my father's descendant exactly. Is it any wonder I'm one of his descendants? This is especially true when Sirius is in hard aspect to the moon, such as in the Cancer new moon, which can have the effect of creating a sense of cultural alienation. Here are a few examples of how this can manifest. being first-generation immigrants, being estranged from family in some way, existing as the outliers of society in some way or fashion. Many of my friends joke that I'm an alien sent from the future. I am an astrologer on YouTube, after all. In astrology, placements aspecting Sirius are said to bestow an ambitious nature with a grand outlook. When favorably aspected, this can bring luck in business, wealth, prosperity, and honors. Sirius conjunct the sun, such as in the Cancer new moon, and favorably aspected, is said to bring kingly preferment and can be found in the charts of various important people and personalities. This also brings preferment in sports, astrology, government affairs, and with dealing with the public. This is also true if Sirius is conjunct the ascendant. The ascendant and the midheaven are two very visible parts of the chart, so this will be especially true if it's conjunct the midheaven or the ascendant. Here are some famous people with Sirius conjunct their ascendant. Elon Musk, who also has Mercury present, Michael Jordan, Albert Einstein, Mark Wahlberg, Billy Joel, Judy Garland, Robert De Niro, and Steven Spielberg. Sirius conjunct the moon, such as in the Cancer new moon, and favorably aspected, brings beneficial changes to one's home and family, factoring in Venus's close proximity. This can bring beneficial changes in business and to our romantic relationships. The USA, born July 4th, 1776, aka the 4th of July, happy 4th of July to all who celebrate, has its natal sun conjunct Sirius. This will also be true for anyone born in the days surrounding the 4th of July, including my mother, born July 2nd in the 1950s. Her sun is conjunct Sirius, and her only daughter has her midheaven conjunct Sirius. If we rewind to the time leading up to and including the signing of the Declaration of Independence, when Pluto was last in Aquarius, by the way, one could say that the U.S. was built on anarchist histories and fabricated memories. USA is a place, at least at the time of its origin, not so much these days, where black sheep from all walks of life could come together into this great melting pot. This, in and of itself, is a Sirius star narrative. The Sirius promise is a promise that cultural alienation can turn into soft power. It's the ugly little duckling story. This is the story of the underdog experiencing injustice and adversity on the path to greatness and fame. It's a story about conquering one's pain by not only transmuting it, but by turning it into a cultural product or otherwise commercializing the self-narrative, such as through songwriting or writing, or perhaps here on YouTube. Sirius identifies with those who are marginalized. The USA, for example, especially at the time of its origin, sees itself as a positive integrating force on the global stage because it believes that it has the ability to pull together a band of outcasts and misfits. The USA sees itself as a refuge and a shelter for those who have been estranged from the rest of the world. But what happens when the USA can no longer support its own marginalized populations? The homeless, elderly, war veterans, drug addicts, children, and immigrants. American expansionism is possible because America is a place that no one can really claim root to or call home, aside from indigenous populations who do not believe that the land is something that can be owned in the first place. Dogs are said to be a colonial animal, originally brought to the Americans in the first wave after crossing from Siberia 9,000 years ago. Within the past 1,000 years, however, there have been at least 3 independent reintroductions of dogs. The first may have consisted of Arctic dogs that arrived with the Thule culture. This was about 1,000 years ago. Then, beginning in the 15th century, the Europeans brought a second wave of dogs that appear to have almost completely replaced those original indigenous dogs. Lastly, Siberian Huskies were introduced to the American Arctic during the Alaskan Gold Rush. As a result of these more recent introductions, the modern American dog population, and this is a quote, is largely derived from Eurasian breeds, and the closest known extant visage of the first American dogs now exists as a worldwide transmissible cancer. This is from The Evolutionary History of Dogs in the Americas by the National Library of Medicine. Sirius, as the dog star, is about settling, cultural belonging, and one's nationality or citizenship. The history of dog keeping evolved directly alongside settler colonialism. Dogs are seen as the loyal companion species of those who are fated to wander the world. attached to nothing. The cowboys and the dreamers who fall asleep with the sky. Separateness, isolation, and alienation is something that haunts Sirius people, whether this manifests as exceptionalism, marginalization, or a combination of both, such as the story of the underdog. And I say this to you as my father and I prepare to face our extended family for the first time in several years. He has been the black sheep from his family for divorcing my mother, who was a malignant female narcissist, very abusive toward him. His family, super religious, turned their backs on him instead of supporting him, not understanding that he was trying to navigate out of an abusive situation, but did not have the skills to communicate that with them. My mother's abuses continued onto her children, and I am now the black sheep within my own family as the only person who insists upon accountability for her woe is me manipulation and inability to take accountability or stay sober. It's imperative that Sirius people shake the feeling that they will never belong anywhere in life and learn to trust the universe and God, whatever you deem that to be. Often, Sirius natives feel as though they're stuck or trapped in a competitive or scarce environment, in which everyone is always trying to get ahead and prove how they stand out from the crowd. Crabs in a bucket. Fortunately, these are the ideal conditions for fostering exceptionalism. Sirius people tend to be deeply attached to their ancestral origins and are naturally interested in investigating the histories that they themselves cannot remember. This investigation process is designed to bring Sirius natives into alignment with people who have mirroring histories of pain of their own. Once Sirius people investigate their ancestral histories of marginalization, their generational karma, with the purpose of overcoming said marginalization, they can become emperors and empresses within their own lives.